Hello, everybody, and welcome to our national and global news review. Today is Wednesday. What is it? October 8th already. Thank you so much for joining me. Full transparency. This has been pre recorded 2 hours before it airs. So if somebody or something happened in between and I do not mention that, just keep that in mind. And please don't be upset if I don't read out your comments because I, in fact, will be in the comment section. So please comment, please ask questions, and there in writing, I will be responding. So today is one of those days. So again, thank you for joining me. Today, it's the 8th day of government shutdown here in United States. We will be exploring a lot of topics and everything that did happen today. Obviously, national news. So Trump's shutdown, I call it Trump's shutdown because Trump is in charge, right? It's impacting now airports, workers, and federal pay. Trump's threat to withhold wages and cut governmental programs. We're going to talk about that too. Also, Pentagon is warning over China and new U.S. developments. The UK and India just closed a huge deal fueling Scotland's whiskey boom. Also, we have global updates on Canada, Ukraine, Gaza, Russia, Germany, and the Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry. And by the way, stick with me. The deep dive includes what happened yesterday between Carney and Trump. What is that new deal? What are they working on? And is it realistic? Is it not? So we're going to dive into that. But first, major headlines. Let's start with some national news. Democratic bill to fund the U.S. government and end this ongoing government shutdown was falling short of the votes needed for passage in the Senate on Wednesday. At the time of this recording, this has not passed. We're still in the shutdown. Travelers across the country could face additional delays at major airports. So if you're traveling today, tomorrow, in the next few days, please check and be vigilant to check what is happening at your airport that you're departing, but also the one that you're arriving to, because everything is, of course, obviously connected. So, and all of that is happening due to the shortage of air traffic controllers, the shortage that we actually had to begin with. And now with government shutdown and with the idea of not paying federal workers that have been furloughed, of course, the controllers and also TSA agents are calling in sick and are questioning, is it worth it for me to show up? Obviously, they're part of those essential workers. But Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said more controllers are calling out sick amid the shutdown. Like TSA agents, air traffic controllers are considered essential employees. On Tuesday, numerous airports were affected, including Chicago O'Hare, which operated without a full complement of controllers for over 9 hours. Then the FAA also issued a ground stop to flights heading to Nashville International Airport due to staffing shortages. And similar disruptions occurred Monday at Hollywood Burbank International Airport in California, where the entire tower shut down for nearly 6 hours because of lack of those essential workers, controllers. Flights there were delayed up to 2.5 hours. Major hubs such as Newark, Phoenix, and Las Vegas are also seeing significant delays this week. Obviously, Sean Duffy was asked to comment on that, and here's what he had to say.
Absenteeism as a concern. Again, we've had a few airports, and we're tracking it. We don't have one facility that has had long-term issues with the sick leave, but that is concerning to me.
It is concerning, but he calls it slight uptick. Now, President Donald Trump suggested on Tuesday that he may withhold back pay from all federal employees once the government shutdown ends. He also said he will soon announce which government programs he intends to permanently eliminate as part of the standoff over federal funding. Roughly 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed, according to Congressional Budget Office analysis. Now, several senior GOP lawmakers have distanced themselves from Trump's comments and narratives. affirming their support for back pay, but a growing number of Republicans have also acknowledged the potential political risks of mass federal layoffs during this period. So it's not really about people, it's really about the votes that these people represent. And let's hope we still will be voting in 2026, or those votes will be actually actual. I want to play a video that I compiled yesterday about Trump answering the question at the Oval Office when meeting Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, on those workers. And is he concerned about the delays at the airports? Take a look.
Are you concerned about the delays at airports, and how do you see the shutdown?
In fact, we just spoke to air traffic controllers here at Burbank Airport in the last few minutes, and they can now confirm that they will be heading home at 4:15 this afternoon. As of 4:15 this afternoon, there will be no air traffic controllers inside of that tower right there.
Oh, sure. I mean, they're all Democrat delays. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual.
Nope. Nope.
Nope. Mm-mm. Now, as to quick national news, Pope Leo urged U.S. bishops who are visiting Vatican on Wednesday to firmly address how immigrants are being treated under President Donald Trump. And most importantly, his hardline policies. Attendees said that this marked the pontiff's latest push on immigration and humanitarian issues. Now, as to President Trump, he issued this tweet. Here you go. President Trump called Wednesday for jailing of Chicago's mayor and governor of Illinois, both Democrats, as his administration prepared to deploy military troops to the streets of Chicago. As you see here, he says Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also. But see, if somebody has to go to jail, there's also a question, always has to be a question. What did they violate? And what we discussed yesterday, when National Guard of one state is invading, essentially, right? Coming in, entering the other state without any invitation, without any proper judicial basis, then they are invading another state. And so the Texas National Guard is going to Illinois. Obviously, Governor Pritzker is questioning it and protecting his own citizens. Why would he protect ICE agents? He was protecting his citizens. That's what he was elected to do. Same story for mayor of Illinois. Now, other person very much of interest of President Trump, James Comey, will seek to dismiss his case as a malicious prosecution. The former FBI director, targeted as part of Trump's retribution campaign, pleaded not guilty today in federal court. His trial is set for January 5th. Now, the U.S. Senate on Tuesday confirmed former NFL star Herschel Walker with the badges as the next U.S. ambassador to Bahamas. And interesting fact, this position has not been filled for 15 years. I think if they passed it to us, I think we would be fighting for being there, right, as a representative to Bahamas. Now, Peter Marks, the former top vaccine regulator ousted from the FDA earlier this year, now has joined Eli Lilly, the drug maker, confirmed on Tuesday. The FBI's Washington field office is investigating a series of alleged infiltrations of prominent U.S. law firms, and this time by Chinese hackers. And this was first reported by the New York Times. Tesla today unveiled a new model, cheaper versions, essentially, of the Model 3 and Y. The roughly $5,000 price cut is for them intended to create sort of a more affordable entrance point or entry point for buyers. Essentially, Model 3 standard will cost $38,630, Model Y $41,630, and all of those will be available in November and December. Now, following the expiration of the $7,500 EV tax credit, obviously Tesla is facing competition in the market, and so that's how they are adjusting. Now, the Supreme Court appears likely to strike down the state bans on LGBTQ plus conversion therapy, which, by the way, will be then affecting more than 20 states where it is currently prohibited. This conversion therapy is prohibited. But during oral arguments, the court's conservative majority sided with a Christian therapist who claimed Colorado's ban violated her First Amendment. Well, the rights under First Amendment. The state's lawyer cited a mountain of evidence from medical groups showing the practice is both harmful and ineffective. Well, the ruling expected next year could affect, as I mentioned, over 20 states. Now, trilogy metals in an Alaska-based minerals company saw its stock skyrocket over 200% after what? After White House took 10% stake in the company, which is valued $35.6 million. It's intended to boost U.S. critical mineral supply. Obviously, it goes against the Biden administration bans and rejection of such projects over environmental concerns. But still, China is dominating the global supply, producing nearly 70% of rare minerals, and this is according to CNBC. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law something that has affected all of us. Have you ever watched television and then the ads intervene and they're much, much louder than the actual movie or series or documentary you're watching? And you're like, whoa, and then you're like, looking for a remote, and then you have to up the volume once the ads are over. So in California, you will be lucky starting July 1st, 2026, the ads have to be in the same volume. So, other additional headlines, let's cruise over them real quick. Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $966 million in damages in a talc-related cancer case. Remember those? We were discussing that a couple of years ago. Yeah. AppLovin faces on SEC investigation over its data collection practices. I do. And BMW cut its profit forecast amid weak demand in China. I would also question their demand in USA given the tariffs, Renewable energy has overtaken coal as the world's largest source of electricity, according to think tank Ember. This shows how far behind we are in the United States now. The upcoming film Marty Supreme, if you care, starring Timothée Chalamet, is being praised for his best performance yet. So if you're a fan, be on the lookout. Now, as to defense news, let's get serious. The nominee to lead the Pentagon's Indo-Pacific Affairs Office. And we have been talking about this nominee for a couple of days. First of all, he is telling Taiwan to up their defense spending to 10% of their GDP, to start buying more from the US, sort of using the same narrative they use against Ukraine. And that, I say against Ukraine, because you ain't helping if you're telling them to spend more, right? And in Ukraine, of course, White House is demanding all European allies to spend 5% of their GDP to buy defense equipment for themselves and also for Ukraine. But now this is also coming into the Pacific. So first, yesterday, he demanded 10% GDP spending from Taiwan. Now, he urged allies in the Indo-Pacific. So this is the IP4 that Biden administration and Biden himself, President Joe Biden, gathered. Right, the coalition of the not willing in the EU, but really the coalition of those who holding together against China. Now, all of them are now urged to increase efforts against China's growing threat while maintaining combat credible U.S. forces and strong regional investments during the October 7th Senate hearing. So this is what he revealed yesterday during the hearing, essentially asking now Indo-Pacific partners to spend more and buy more from the United States. We are a store. Now, at Nellis Air Force Base, 3 B-2A Spirit bomber crews hit all 16 targets using live GPS-aided targeting system or GPS-aided munition system weapons. The 2,000-pound munitions were dropped from 41,000 feet, achieving 13 direct hits. The Northrop developed GAM, right? This GPS-aided munition serves as an interim weapon until the Air Force fields the new Joint Direct Attack munition. Now, CENTCOM confirmed that on October 2nd, U.S. forces killed Mohammed Abd al-Wahab al-Ahmad, a senior al-Qaeda-affiliated attack planner. Now, October 2nd, this was done. Now, October 8th, it has been revealed al-Ahmad was a member of Ansar al-Islam, an al-Qaeda-linked group. And here's a quote for somebody who knows what happens with our defense. Here it is. The U.S. defense community has built a culture of dependency on software ecosystems filled with unvetted foreign contributors. This was said by Nicholas Chalin, CEO of Ask Sage and former U.S. Air Force Chief Software Officer. He continues, says, when systems protecting our warfighters, are we using this term, rely on code touched by engineers in nations that are adversaries, we put national security in jeopardy. Ain't that the truth? More news. Bangladesh may become the third country to operate the Chinese-made J-10 fighter jet after China and Pakistan. Air Chief Marshal Hassan Mahmud Khan said that the interim government has approved purchases of multi-role aircraft, new SAM systems, and long-range radars. So China is also selling their equipment to their partners. A new market analysis projects that the number of satellites launched in the next decade will far exceed those currently in orbit. And orbit is actually overstimulated by those anyway. While most will be commercial or civil, the defense sector will remain the industry's anchor through 2034. I would say we need to figure out how to get them down because they're very dirty. Next time I'll show you a video of the progression of the satellites and, yes, trash that is surrounding us in the system. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced that Pentagon Barracks initiative, giving a new barracks task force 30 days to draft an investment plan for improving troop housing. Now, in Ukraine, a European-made 70-millimeter Tiles rocket is being used to destroy Shahed series drones. Now, this is European-made, has nothing to do with the U.S. The laser-guided weapon, similar to U.S. APKWS-2, features FZ-123 airburst warhead that disperses thousands of steel pellets. So, now, as to global news, and this is an article I wrote last night. This comes straight from the Prime Minister's office in London. UK and India trade deal to boost Scotland's economy is about to happen. It's a big one. Prime Minister-led trade mission to India this week is promoting the landmark UK-Indian Free Trade Agreement, projected to add 190 million UK pounds annually to Scotland's economy, British pounds to economy. The deal is a major victory for Scotch whisky, with India set to slash import tariffs, potentially increasing exports by £1 billion each year. Scottish Secretary Douglas Alexander called the agreement transformative, while SWA CEO Mark Carney said it would open access to the world's largest whiskey market and expand consumer choice. And per usual, listen, a couple of months ago, I was in a meeting with the Prime Minister of Scotland, or equivalent of it. And he was openly saying, look, I'm appealing to President Trump and his roots. His mother was from Scotland. Let's talk about tariffs, because we really will be impacted if those tariffs do impact us. And since they haven't heard much from the US, now they're seeking new opportunities. And I have a deep dive here from WTO, World Trade Organization. I don't want to preview, but they say, look, the market doesn't look too bad because others are finding new partners. And that is what's happening. And to reverse that will take an immense effort from any next administration that is willing. Now, regional tensions and diplomatic moves. Some quick news here. Afghanistan's neighbors, including several U.S. allies, jointly rejected President Trump's proposal to seize control of Bagram Air Base, according to a statement released after Moscow meeting. You hear me? Moscow meeting. Taliban, of course, traveled to Kremlin and had another meeting. More readout on that in a second. Meanwhile, President of Turkey Erdogan expressed hope that his meeting with Trump last month would lift sanctions, blocking Turkey's purchase of F-35 jets, and of course help resolve Halbank legal case. And yesterday I reported that he actually just literally gave Trump $100 million, or offered to give him $100 million to dismiss the case. Now, the U.S. added 15 Chinese firms today to its restricted trade list for supplying electronic components used in Iranian proxy drones, including those operated by Houthi and Hamas militia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio canceled his plans to travel to Paris summit on Gaza's post-war transition, though the U.S. will still send representatives. Somebody will be there, but the administration is not that interested. So the European Union proposed 50% steel tariff on lower duty-free quotas, responding to cheap Chinese imports and Trump's tariffs. The plan, pending EU Parliament approval, is set to comply with WTO rules. And again, look, everybody is adjusting. First, everyone, and just let's look at it. From January 20th, everybody was traveling to Washington, D.C., trying to talk to Trump, trying to even bribe him and smooth him into rethinking the agenda and idea. It only got worse. It got postponed. Look at Canada. Prime Minister Carney traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with Trump, in May. Then still the tariffs on steel came. Then still the 35% tariffs came. Then still, we're kicking the can down the road and nothing is happening. Again, without previewing much, nothing is happening. There is nothing in writing. There's everything in planning. Again, concepts of a plan rather than plans. But countries gotta eat and gotta live. And so they close different deals. And to reverse that, I don't know what it's going to take. First of all, time. But second, willing people to negotiate and then to rebuild the trust. And trust is a very funky thing. You build it over decades. You lose it over a month. It's exactly what happened. So, where are we? Okay. Ongoing conflict and espionage. In Egypt, U.S. envoy. This is who is negotiating on Gaza. When we're saying that Netanyahu still is bombing Gaza daily and there are negotiations going on, this is who's negotiating. Steve Witkoff, the real estate developer. Jared Kushner, I leave you at that. And Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed Al Thani, who gave Trump a plane. They continued Gaza peace talks with Hamas. They are the ones talking to Hamas. How much hope is there? Hamas submitted a list of prisoners it seeks to release. Obviously, that's the Palestinians held by Israel. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said the talks were entering their fateful days of decision. Meanwhile, he is rolling over Gaza. I think we're keeping those talks up until Gaza is flat and ready to become Trump Gaza. And meanwhile, in Paris, the meeting that Rubio now doesn't want to attend and will send some type of representative, that's where our partners, including Middle Eastern partners and European partners, are meeting to discuss what will be in Gaza after there is a peace agreement of some sort. Meanwhile, the U.S. is not interested in that, but is very much interested in this type of Witkoff, Kushner, Qatari Sheikh talks to give again Netanyahu time to achieve what is planned to be achieved. That's how it looks to me. Comment how you think that looks like to you. Now, Houthi rebels in Yemen have detained 9 UN staff, raising total number of UN personnel seized since 2021 to 53 people. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the actions and demanded their release. But what you do to get them out? 53 people, 53 families involved. For what? Now in Moscow, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, horseface, met a Taliban delegation, pledging expanded cooperation on business, and check this out, on business and counterterrorism. Russia and Taliban are working together on counterterrorism. while rejecting Trump's suggestion for renewed U.S. military presence in Bagram. An Estonian soldier was sentenced to 5 years in prison for spying for Russia, having passed information on border defenses near Narva. What's wrong with you? The U.S. Senate confirmed investor Ben Black as head of International Development Finance Corporation, the so-called DFC, a $60 billion agency. Black vowed to increase Wall Street involvement in global DFC projects. I mean, what else? Why not? Germany's industrial output fell to its lowest since 2005, with automotive production dropping 18.5% in August. Chancellor Merz will meet industry leaders tomorrow to discuss challenges amid Chinese competition and U.S. tariffs. As to science and innovation, we have good news on Nobel Peace Prize. The 2025 Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Susumu Kitagawa, Richard Robson, and Omar M. Yagi for developing metal organic frameworks, molecular structures capable of storing gases, capturing CO2, and harvesting water from desert air. The committee said the technology can help address climate change, which is fantastic. Now, some deep dives. I have 2 deep dives to present, and then we're done. Alrighty, so first, WTO. Let's check the global trade update. Global trade growth has exceeded expectations this year despite U.S. tariffs, though the World Trade Organization forecasts a sharp slowdown in 2026. In numbers, it looks global goods trade are to grow in 2025 by 2.4%, up from 0.9% that was projected in August. But it will be slowing down to 0.5% only in 2026. They also note that the initial tariff impact was delayed by stockpiling. Obviously, the companies were piling the products, getting ready for Christmas, for holidays, right? So there's hope that there will be presents by the end of this year. And of course, AI-driven demand for semiconductors and servers and increased trade among developing economies. But in 2026, you can't stockpile that far. Those collections are not even there if you think about clothes and cosmetics and all type of products, right? So developing country trade outpaced the global average, while muted retaliation to U.S. tariffs limited global fallout. Still, uncertainty looms over potential U.S.-China trade deal, with Trump and Xi Jinping, of course, now expected to meet by the end of this month. Trump is going to go to South Korea, Malaysia. Obviously in South Korea, he's meeting with Xi Jinping, and also he's going to go to Japan. Meanwhile, the ongoing U.S. government shutdown has delayed critical trade data, including last month's import-export report. And I would be very careful to trust those reports either. So, big readout on what happens between Canada and U.S. Now, my source is Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister Carney's office. Today, Prime Minister Carney returned after concluding the working visit to Washington, D.C. Prime Minister and President welcomed the progress achieved in building a new economic and security relationship between their nations. Carney underlines and underscores that Canada currently holds the strongest trade agreement of any U.S. partner, with 85% of Canada-U.S. trade now tariff-free for now. Cooperation is also strengthening border security, and 2 leaders identified opportunities for material progress on steel, aluminum, and directing their teams to finalize new agreements in the coming weeks. Now, the meeting also covered pressing international priorities. They talked about Hamas. They talked about October 7th, the marking second year or 2 years since this horrific attack on Israelis by Hamas. They, sort of agreed on Trump's plan. Here you have the full readout, by the way, in today's news briefing that is already in your mailbox. So check it out. There is no charge for it. Just subscribe and get your free factual news. Okay. So you can read all into it. But the Prime Minister thanked President Trump for his leadership in the region and his historic peace plan, under which negotiations between Israel and Hamas are continuing in Cairo, by Kushner and Witkoff and Qatari Sheikh. On defense, now this is On defense, discussions centered on Arctic security and the growing need for joint operational capacity. The Prime Minister emphasized Canada's increased defense investments, the upcoming defense industrial strategy, and opportunities for expanded collaboration in continental defense. Later, Prime Minister Carney joined J.D. Vance and his wife for dinner, private dinner at Vance's residence. Conversations focused on shared priorities and the broader effort to strengthen economic and security cooperation between both nations. Prime Minister Carney also met with U.S. Senate leadership, Senator Shaheen, Senator Crapo, those who are somewhat connected to Kuzma Review. In each meeting, Prime Minister stressed Canada's goal of ensuring the agreement continues to create jobs and economic opportunities on both sides of the border. He also met with Senator David McCormick and Business Roundtable CEO Joshua Bolton to discuss investment and competitiveness. Ottawa readout is all about making the best economy in G7, striking new deals with America. This will be all great. Now, here's a quote from Carney. Prime Minister Carney says, President Trump and I know that there are areas where our nations can compete and areas where we will be stronger together. We're focused on building these new opportunities to create greater certainty, security, and prosperity for our workers and business. Meanwhile, LeBlanc says, quote, White House talks were successful, positive, substantive, but no relief on steel just yet. And if you check Canadian news, there's not a lot of talk, a lot of hopes, a lot of whatever, but nothing in writing, not much progress was achieved. Now, what alarms me is the discussion about Arctic security. With whom? With the president of a nation that rolls red carpet in Alaska for murder Putin, who promises and offers Putin and China to drill baby drill in Alaska right next to you? We'll dive into that on Friday. Why? Because many things can be said, but should be said in a safe environment for me. So what we did, I launched Onest Plus. This is a join button, big join button underneath this video. So you can tap and join. You can choose the lowest level. I mean, YouTube made me choose 3 levels, but you can choose the lowest one. And then on Fridays, you will be joining me for a special briefing at 5 p.m. Eastern every Friday, where we talk off the record. Like, for instance, this Friday topic is what's next after Project 2025. Like, did you know that Peter Thiel was holding conferences, actually 4 of them, and just finished the 4th one on Antichrist movement and how this has to be connected to UK. Sounds unfamiliar? Join me to dive into that. We're also going to talk about how close are we to World War III, what's actually happening in Europe defense-wise, how are they dependent on US, what are the possible scenarios? Like when we look at hurricanes, there's possible tracks. What are our possible tracks here? Week later, we're going to talk about the big, which probably you have no idea about, but in majority neither, big consulate that China built right in the middle of London. And what's the problem with that? Because there's big security concern with that. And we're going to talk about the Arctic. How is it for Canada to be part of the Golden Dome? What would that be? Who is defending them? So I'm going to get some sources. We're going to dive deep in a safe environment. And then every Friday, last Friday of the month, you're going to get personal Zoom invite to get to see me. We're going to chit chat, see it as a happy hour, but I'll answer all your questions. We'll dive deep. I'll share some plans for Onest Network. You can also ask about, whom I'm going to interview and suggest questions, topics, and guests as well. Okay, so I really hope to see you on Friday at 5 p.m. So this join button right underneath this video on YouTube. So again, thank you so much for watching. This was pre-recorded, so I don't see your comments, but I'm in the comments replying to them. Deal? Okay. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow, and keep your head on a swivel. Keep it peaceful, right? If something makes you more anxious than informed, shut it down. Okay? See you tomorrow.